ये सब सिटी में हम लोग अभी घूम रहे हैं गाइड के साथ। ये पूरा सिटी है। ये पहाड़, ये कौन सा पहाड़ है?
ये पहाड़ कौन सा है? हम अभी गलत नहीं बोलेंगे।
टेबल माउंट। ये हम दूर से देख रहे हैं, टेबल माउंट है ये। टेबल माउंट। वाह, क्या सिटी है! ये बहुत ब्यूटीफुल सिटी है। हम आप लोग से बोलते हैं एक बार अगर आप लोग को मौका लगे तो ज़रूर आओ। कैप्टन सिटी बहुत अच्छा है।
So that is the original fort or fortress of Cape Town, built in the 1660s. So no, I'm not going to start there because look at the back of you guys. Table Mountain. All of you probably have heard of Table Mountain before coming to Cape Town. Let me ask you, even before you come to Cape Town, if you browse the internet, read through books, that's a very iconic, what can I say, feature. If you see that, then you know mountains that are 6-7 kilometers. Think about the Andes, the Himalayas. This mountain is much bigger than those mountains. Although the Table Mountain has got the flat table, the table top. Today, the southeasterly wind is blowing. Do you see the white cloud cover down below? We call it the tablecloth. So today, the tablecloth, the day after Christmas, just covering the table. Because yesterday in my household, we had like a feast with family and friends. So the table is set again one day after Christmas on December. So the tablecloth. So there are two ways to look at it. Number one, even modern people like this perspective. Why does those mountains form? It's not a cloudy day, it's clear skies. So if you look at the southern tip of Africa, what happens is that you have the Indian Ocean on the southern side, which is warmer water, and the Atlantic Ocean on the western side. So this wind is blowing actually from the southeast to the northwest. So when the southeasterly wind blows over False Bay or the Indian Ocean, the wind will pick up droplets of water into the wind, and then the southeaster takes those droplets of water and at the back bay down, the wind will blow and the droplets will go higher and higher. What happens with droplets of water when it reaches a higher, colder point? Condensation technique. So what you're seeing there is the Indian Ocean droplets of water in the wind condense the mountain and then orographic clouds. So those clouds don't bring rain, so it's just because of the cooling of ocean water at the top of the mountain. If the wind dies down later in the day, those clouds will disappear. Because in the Cape, in the winter we have our rainy season. June, July, August is our winter time. Then the wind that blows to the northwesterly wind from the northwest, coming from the Atlantic Ocean that's colder, that's cloud cover that covers the whole city and the whole area, and that brings rain. Even if you exit Cape Town on the N1 to the northeast, or you exit it on the N2 towards the east, if you look at the mountains when the southeasterly wind is blowing, not only in the city, but in the winelands and the Cape Flats area, a lot of mountains will have cloud cover like this all across the Western Cape. That's a little bit of science, but there's another urban legend that says no. Hundreds of years ago, the local folk of Cape Town in the late 1600s said that there was a pirate, a Dutch pirate called Jan van Hunks. And Jan van Hunks, he actually had a house. You see, that's called Devil's Peak. So let's just stand on this side. So that area there is Devil's Peak today. Then you have the flat table. There's the upper cable station. The cable cars running from the lower cable station. You can't see it now. It's there in the middle of the mountains, the upper cable station. But anyways, that mountain was called Windberg or Wind Mountain. Can you guess why? Look at the southeasterly wind blowing through us here. So Jan van Hunks, they said no, he must be a pirate because he was born in the Cape and he wasn't a wealthy guy, so he went away for a few years, and when he came back in the late 1600s, they said there was a jetty. I'll point out a few more of the historical things later on, but he landed, the ship landed next to the jetty. People said it could have been gold or silver or valuables. Nobody knew what was on the inside. But then with his slaves, Jan van Hunks went from the sea and he went to his house on Windberg, Wind Mountain. And they say he was actually one of the heaviest smokers in the Cape at the time. So he had a reputation as being a very heavy smoker. So he got to his home after many years. He was sitting on this stoop, is like a veranda, a porch, and he was smoking there the whole day, from morning till night, just smoking, and he was observing Table Bay as the ships were coming in and out. And they say one day a character, he had a hoodie on, appeared there on Wind Mountain, Windberg, and he was walking towards Jan van Hunx's house. And the character asked him, the person said, "Are you Jan van Hunx?" And he said, "Yes, why do you want to know?" And the guy said, "I've heard that they say that you are the heaviest smoker in the country." He said, "For sure I am. I can beat anybody at smoking." And this hooded character said, "Okay, I want to challenge you to a smoking contest." Then the second day appeared, and they were still smoking. So you guys see the smoke there? It's the contest of Van Hunx and the hooded character. And they're smoking, and maybe later in the day they'll still be smoking, and then some of that smoke will come down Table Mountain. And the morning of moment, 2 slaves or 3 slaves, they're on their way back to Jan van Hunx's land. Pastor and the devil just disappearing. Obviously when they came down, that's when the urban legend started. That said, you cannot challenge the devil to anything. He's a great deceiver. And since the late 1600s, scientists want to say the southeasterly wind is forming orographic clouds on the mountain. Other people say no. It's old Jan van Hunx and the devil himself at it again today. So the smoking contest, people, you can see today is a clear indication that the smoking contest is still alive in the Cape there. And from that day onwards, Windberg, Wind Mountain, became Devil's Peak. So the name today of that peak is called Devil's Peak, based on the urban legend of Jan van Hunx and the devil. So you can decide, do you think those are orographic clouds, or do you think it's Van Hunx and the devil having their competition? It's up to you. Devil's here now, but then you'll have Lion's Head and Signal Hill. We're standing now what they call the City Bowl. So Table Mountain is millions of years old. Did you floor? Because millions of years ago that mountain was under the sea. The southern tip of the African continent had a collision with Antarctica, and literally Table Mountain folded out of the sea. That's why if you're in the Western Cape province of South Africa, we talk about the Cape Fold Mountains. They folded out of the sea, and that's also one of the reasons. Look at the top part of the mountain. That's called Table Mountain Sandstone. So sandstone is sand. If it's in the sun for a long time, it hardens. Some of the historical buildings I'll point out on the tour, Table Mountain sandstone was used in the construction as well as a local building material. So the top part, that's Table Mountain sandstone, a very hard sandstone. Devil's Peak, you see more greener parts with the vegetation of the plant growth is. That's called shale. Also in the wine industry, a lot of mountains on the lower slopes, because under the sandstone then you'll get the shale area. A lot of vineyards like actually to grow into shale ground that's softer. The roots go through, but a vineyard likes to stress. So Shiraz grapes, where I'm from in Paarl, so I'm from Paarl. This is the city of Cape Town, so about 60 kilometers to the northeast of the city. There's a town called Paarl. Paarl was actually, it's called Paarl because there's a Dutch word parel, in Afrikaans parel, pearl. And the reason is, it's in a valley, the town, and next to the town is Paarl Mountain Nature Reserve. On top of Paarl Mountain, there are 3 huge granite boulders, the second largest granite outcrop in the world, after one in Australia. So the biggest boulder, the first Dutch settler in the 1660s, the one morning he woke up in the valley, he said, wow, there was a lot of dew or rain overnight, and in the morning sun the boulder was glistening so much, he said it looked like a pearl. And that's why the town was called Paarl in the late 1600s. So I'm from Paarl, in the winelands. And I don't talk about wines, but I grew up with that sort of thing. So I also have a lot of knowledge on wine production when I was younger. But that's just who I am. I'm from the winelands. I have an interest in history, and that's why I'm also doing these tours. So to get back to the mountain now, it's the sandstone and then the shale ground that vineyards like to grow in. Also you can see more vegetation. On the sandstone there's no plant growth, but on Malmesbury shale you get it. And the sandstone and the shale is on a granite base. Even on the Atlantic seaboard to Camps Bay side, if you take a coastal ride or a coastal drive, you'll see big granite boulders next to the sea. So in the Western Cape, Cape Town City and the surrounding areas, sandstone, shale and granite. Those are the three large geological categories in the area where we are today. So millions of years ago, these mountains folded out of the sea. How do we know it's under the sea? If you go into caves on Table Mountain, there's fossilized fish bone in the stone. From a scientific perspective, right? The interesting thing is, the First Nations of this area was the Khoi Khoi and the Sand People. They called the mountain Huri Kwaggo. H-O-E-R-I-K-W-A-G-G-O. Huri Kwaggo means mountain from the sea. Non-scientific people call this mountain from the sea. Science says, with the evidence in the caves, it was under the sea millions of years ago. Very interesting there. Okay, and the area we're standing now is called Cape Town City today. The Khoi Khoi and the Sand People called this area Camissa. C-A-M-I-S-S-A. Camissa means place of sweet, fresh water. So if you think about it, when the settlers arrived here, the first people from Europe to settle in the Cape was the Dutch in the 1650s. When they arrived here, the place didn't look like now. So at Table Mountain, there were 4 big rivers running from the mountain where we're standing now to the ocean into Table Bay. There was a lot of water here. With a lot of water, what did you also find here? Elephants, rhinos, hippopotamus, lion. This is Africa, people. So there were thousands of antelope here. South Africa at some stage, if you exit the Cape, you go through the Karoo. Karoo is a Khoi Khoi word that means dry or thirst land. So in the 1600s, when the Dutch arrived here, there were herds of millions of springboks. Springbok. Our national rugby team is named after that buck because that's how plentiful they were even in the Cape. So when the Dutch arrived here, obviously wild Africa, lots of antelope, eland, springbok, kudu, name the they were all here. And when they also arrived here, they were the Khoi Khoi and the Sand People. Remember, more primitive people, and now the guys getting off the ship with their long hair and their fancy clothing. So it's 2 different cultures meeting, and obviously there will be skirmishes and disagreements. Even in the world we live in today, there are still people disagreeing with one another. So that's the reason. Now I'm getting to the Castle of Goudo. When the settlers arrived in the 1650s, they had to build a place where they will be safe. Safe mostly from the wild African animals, because there were lots of lion and leopard in these parts as well. And that's when they built the Castle of Goudo. This castle was built from 1666 to 1670. This is one of the best preserved castles built by the Dutch East Indies Company in the world today. If you have time later on, go into the castle, do a tour, visit the museum. A fascinating place. Remember, the best preserved DEIC castle, Dutch East Indies Company's castle in the world today. In its original visit, never changed since the 1660s. So that is the oldest man-made construction in South Africa, the Castle of Goudo. Now people ask me, why is the castle here so far away from the sea? Because the castle was next to the sea. If you guys look down, look to where those cars are driving there. You see the palm trees in front of the buildings? And where the cars are driving there on the lower road there, just straight down. That is called Strand Street, translated to English Beach Road.